I'm gonna stay with my abusive father.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is like called Counterparts, and this guy, he is he spends all of his wages getting drunk, and he tries to, I think, have like this gambling thing or like that, and it all falls in his face, and he gets home, and like he had all this crap from work, and everybody just gave him so much shit, and his son's just kind of doing something really simple, and then he just beats the shit out of his son at the end, and it's like his son is just like screaming, and it begins with a little boy talking about a priest's death, but being overheard from these two women that are gossiping and speaking ill of this priest who had paralysis and I think maybe some kind of yucky stuff. And so there's a lot of things in that one image of you have the initial youth talking about death, so at the same time, and then you have it heard from this tainted females talking about it, and but in the end, and then it goes has political thing, so it has a lot of different elements, just like what we're doing. It's like there's a lot of different elements all within it, but it's all like it's all subtle. And at the end, it's a long story, like maybe 50 pages, and it's called The Dead. And these two sisters, they have a party for Christmas, and they have the family come over, and Gabriel with his wife, everybody's having, it's all like really written in detail, and it's so boring as fucking shit, of just because it's just a boring, very bourgeois kind of, you know, and they're doing all these boring things of the dance, and he keeps rereading this poem that he wrote for like the dinner prayer or something like that, so that he gets it right, and then he reads it, and it's just this nobody really cares, and so then he's just like, oh, you did all that work, and you know, all this kind of anticipation, and all for naught, basically. And they leave from the party, and they get into the carriage, and him and his wife, and it's snowing, and he's becoming romantic, and he's with his wife, just like kind of just like he's happy to be with her, and he goes to the room, maybe it was a hotel room because they were traveling, or maybe it was back at their house, and it's then he wants to just announce like how passionate he is, and she's crying, and she says that she's just overwhelmed with, or maybe it was raining, because the rain reminded her of this past love that he stood out in the rain for like a day or a night or something, because he was trying to swoon her and he got pneumonia from staying out in the rain for so long, and he died.
Oh my gosh.
And so she was just grieving for the dead of that lost love that she never took.
Mm-hmm.
And so his dick went limp, basically, and she went to sleep, and he just kind of, I think, looked out the window or went on the balcony or something like that, and it's very poignant at the end. He's just like, and the living and the dead of like, so it's that universal truth of the living and the dead, and so it ends with that, and so it's like really just like overwhelming, just like gut punches, and then you're just left with this universal and so there's that of all these different things of what not to do, all of these things of what not to do. Like I wrote A Living Atrocity as like a satire of what not to do, and it was like all of an epic poem of basically my father and a lot of things, and then everything from that was of like what I am doing or something like that. Like even the Burka Burka is a liberation of like unconsciousness and just letting it all just hang out, you know, of like of rap. And so it kind of like, so it in lines with the Joycean in me. And but The Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man was his next book, which was first written as Stephen Hero, and then he threw the manuscript of Stephen Hero into the fire, and it's from his wife that she recovered that, and then he rewrote, and it was a lot of things changed in it, and then he wrote Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, which was the invention of Stephen Dedalus, which was this fictional character allegorical of James Joyce growing up, where it shows like of his life from going from the Jesuit monastery, then getting kicked out because his father spent all the money and lost all his money, so they couldn't pay the tuition, then to go into these different things, and his idea of like going into the monastery but being so just loving pussy so much that like he could never do that basically, and so he exiled himself from religion, and in the end of the book he exiled himself from religion, then he exiled himself from the politics of Ireland, and he exiled himself from Ireland in general, and he exiled it. So it was like, and that was the end of just like he's not going to be those characters in Dubliners. He's gonna light his own way. And so then you actually have some books in between, but Ulysses is, so he takes Stephen Dedalus, who at this one point he came back to Ireland from, and I wonder, yeah, it was written, it's, so I forget how, but it was all in the span of a day.
Okay.
And the day is actually the day that, in reality, that he met Nora. So it's a sort of like a love poem in that way, that an homage. But he doesn't meet Nora in that book. It's Stephen Dedalus, and there's two main characters of Stephen Dedalus, who is the younger version of James Joyce, and there's Leonard Bloom, who is the older version of James Joyce. Now Leonard Bloom is like more involved in science. He's a Jew. He has a wife who is an adulteress. I mean, she has like, and he also, I think he may have, because they had a stillborn baby, and from that he's been impotent, and so he hasn't been able to have sex with her. So she gets it on the side from this other guy, who she's a singer, and then that's part of the theatrical group, and he just kind of like a cuckold to it of like giving her a letter, and she just puts it under underneath the pillow for reading it for later instead of opening it in front of him, and he just kind of how they sleep is like at the end of the book. He comes home like and they sleep like that, and so the two kind of save each other, Stephen Dedalus and Leonard Bloom. And it's very gray. It's not like this guy is evil and this guy is good. It's more like life. But it also has a parallel to the Odyssey of Stephen Dedalus being the son of Odysseus and Leonard Bloom being Odysseus. And it's kind of interesting of how it all comes together. And at the very end of their Odyssey, it ends with Leonard Bloom just going to bed, and Stephen, I don't know if he slept there or they found the key and then he went home or something like that. But they might have gone their separate ways. I forget which. But anyway, so they're both sleeping, but Molly, who is Leonard Bloom's wife, then Molly Bloom, she can't go to sleep, or maybe she's dreaming at the same time, but it's all one sentence, which is like 50 pages long, and there's no commas or anything. It's just words, and it's one sentence, and it begins with the word yes, and it ends with the word yes at the very end. And it's like how in the end, in Ulysses, the Odyssey, is like they got back together, and they came back together, and from his long travels, well, that happens, but only in her memory of when he first proposed to her when they were in Gibraltar. And so she goes through that monologue. It's really hot, and it's like, and then that's where she has her orgasm at the end. It's really nice reading the last page of it. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
I would love to read.